case.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Tükatinder Landa Başprokurorja kundër Ljube Boškovskit dhe
Mr. Scott, you appear.
Yes, good afternoon, Your Honor. Kenneth Scott, for the prosecutor, also Mr. William Smith.
We can't hear him. The microphone doesn't seem to be on.
Kenneth Scott for the prosecution, Mr. William Smith with me, and also Mr. Hassan Yunus.
Thank you very much. Mr. Boškoski, can you hear me in the language that you understand? And perhaps if the microphone could be switched on. Yes?
Yes, I do understand you in my language.
I understand for this initial appearance you are not intending to have your counsel here. Is that correct? You will be representing yourself?
Yes, I will represent myself.
You could sit down now. Thank you. And from this point on, it will be perfectly acceptable for you merely to speak as you're sitting into the microphone. No need for you to stand as you're speaking from this point on. The hearing today is to deal with the initial appearance of Mr. Ljube Boškoski, which is conducted under Rule 62 of the Rules of Procedure and Evidence. There is an indictment against Mr. Boškoski, which was confirmed by Judge Robinson on the 9th of March this year. The confidentiality in respect of that indictment having been lifted on the 15th of March. The accused has surrendered and has been transferred to the custody of the tribunal. I think he arrived here on the 24th of March, and we now proceed to deal with the question of the indictment and the accused's intentions. Now, I've already ascertained, Mr. Boškoski, that you can understand what is being said translated into your language. Is that correct?
That's true.
Yes, that is correct.
Would you please state your full name?
Ljube
Boškoski.
Ljube Boškoski.
Thank you.
And your date and place of birth?
24th of October 1960 in Tetava.
It is in the Republic of Macedonia.
Yes, in the Republic of Macedonia, thank you.
Questions, Mr. Boškoski, were to ensure that you really are the person named in the indictment. Now, I've received a letter from you which has indicated that you do not propose to be represented at this initial appearance today. I must remind you that you're entitled to legal representation and that counsel can be assigned to you if you lack the funds necessary to retain counsel yourself. And I do that just out of precaution so that you're aware that that is available to you. My understanding, Mr. Boškoski, is that you have plans to have counsel represent you as these proceedings continue. Is that correct?
Well, it is correct, but still, for the moment we are thinking about the details of it.
Well, just bear in mind first that you're entitled to have legal representation, and counsel can be assigned without cost to you if that is necessary. Secondly, if you should decide not to have counsel but to conduct your own defence, you should notify the registrar in writing of that as soon as possible. The indictment in this case is a rather lengthy document. I understand, Mr. Boškoski, that you have received a copy of the indictment in your own language. Is that correct?
It is correct, and in all versions.
Thank you.
The indictment can be read again now in court in its full length if you wish that. If you don't need to have the indictment read again, if you would indicate that, then we can proceed.
I am familiar with the contents of the indictment, and I think I don't need it read, if you decide so.
I think that since it is something that probably you have got a very clear understanding of now, and if you have the full indictment in Macedonian language, in view of your indication of attitude, there's really no need for it to be read over again at this point. The next question that arises, Mr. Boškoski, is how you would plead to the charges that are set out in this indictment. You may enter your plea to each of the charges now, and there are 3 counts charged in the indictment, or you can do so within 30 days of today. It may be preferable, I would suggest, for you to have discussions with your legal counsel before you enter a plea. You may have done that already, I don't know, but I would suggest it would be something that you should consider, having discussions with your legal counsel before you enter a plea. And bearing that in mind, I ask you whether you would wish to enter a plea to the indictment now, or whether you would like to do that at some later stage, which under the rules must occur within 30 days of now. Which would you prefer?
Well, I believe in this high legal and judicial institution, and I think that today is the time when I should plea, and I will plea, since I expect a rapid procedure, since I trust that in my case, in this case, there isn't any case.
What I'll do then, Mr. Boškoski, is to go through identifying in their essential terms the 3 separate charges, counts 1, 2 and 3, and I will ask you then whether you plead guilty or not guilty to each one of those. And if you could indicate whether your plea is one of guilty or not guilty. You understand that procedure?
I understand it, distinguished court.
First count.
The indictment charges you with murder, a violation of the laws or customs of war which are recognized by Article 3, Subarticle 1, Paragraph A of the Geneva Conventions of 1949 and punishable under Articles 3 and 7, sub-Article 3 of the Statute of the Tribunal. To that first charge alleging murder, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Absolutely not guilty.
He will be entered in respect of the first count. In respect of
Во поглед на втората точка, обвинението ве окривува за безобзирно уништување на градови, градчиња или села, како прекршување на законите или обичаите на војување, казниви според членовите 3 по член Б. Excuse me, I only hear the English version.
I am told there's been some trouble with the translation. So,
It has been solved. I have asked him whether he understands the Muslim.
well, I will read it again so that there's no misunderstanding. The second count in the indictment charges you with wanton destruction of cities, towns or villages, a violation of the laws or customs of war, punishable under Articles 3b and 7 sub-Article 3 of the Statute of the Tribunal. To that second charge of wanton destruction, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Not only not guilty, I think that this way in which the investigation was conducted in the Republic of Macedonia is a way which directly attacks the government of the Republic of Macedonia and is an anti-Macedonian act. I feel absolutely not guilty.
With some emphasis, I can say that your plea is not guilty.
Yes.
The third count, the indictment charges you with cruel treatment, a violation of the laws or customs of war as recognized by Article 3, sub-Article 1, paragraph A of the Geneva Conventions of 1949 and punishable under Articles 3 and Article 7, sub-Article 3 of the Statute of the Tribunal. In respect of this third count of cruel treatment, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Regarding this count of the indictment, I entered the plea of not guilty, and I hope that before this tribunal I am convinced we will prove the innocence not only on this count but on all 3 counts of the indictment.
Mr. Boškoski, a plea of not guilty will be entered in respect of the third count, which means that in respect of each of the 3 counts in the indictment, you have entered pleas of not guilty. You will understand that in due course, under Rule 62, sub-rule capital A of the indictment, the registrar will be instructed to set a trial date when the pre-trial procedures have been concluded. Those pre-trial procedures are designed, among other things, to ensure that you are fully informed of what it is that the prosecution alleges against you, that you have an opportunity to examine all the documentary exhibits that the prosecution intend to rely on, and you have copies of the statements of all witnesses whom the prosecution intend to call. And you will receive all of those in the Macedonian language as well as other languages, so that those procedures will proceed. The object and purpose of those is to ensure that you are fully aware of what is being alleged against you, so that you are in a position to fully prepare your defence to meet the prosecution's case. Under the rules, the prosecution must within 30 days of now make available to you or your nominated legal counsel copies of all that supporting material and prior statements, and all of those must be made available in the Macedonian language for you. So that will be the first step in those procedures. The next absolutely formal step is that there must be a further status conference convened by the trial chamber, and that must occur at a convenient time and no later than 120 days of today. I trust that it will be possible for you in the near future to resolve the arrangements that you propose for your own legal representation, and as soon as they are in place, if you could notify the registrar of the legal counsel you choose. Alternatively, notify the registrar that you wish to have legal counsel assigned, so that as soon as possible it will be open to the registry and to the prosecution to be serving the necessary papers and getting on with the procedures. The quicker that can be done, the sooner the case can be ready for trial. I would mention, as a matter of caution, in view of some comments you made earlier, that you will realise that there are many cases awaiting trial in the tribunal. The number of cases has increased noticeably in the last few weeks, so that I can't at this stage promise you an early trial. Just when that trial will be will depend on how quickly those procedures can be completed and how quickly a trial chamber will be available to hear your case. You can be assured that the tribunal well appreciates that you would like to have an early trial. Are there any other matters, firstly, that the prosecution feels that it should raise at this stage, Mr. Scott?
No, Your Honor, not really. We're of course aware of our supporting material obligation. It's in good order, save because of the limitations on Macedonian language resources. There may be need for some extensions in terms of some translations, but it's underway. But we're moving forward.
Good. Well, I hope that can be realised within the normal time. Mr. Boškoski, is there any other matter that you wish to raise at this initial appearance?
I don't know how allowed will be at this stage, but I once again want to warn that the indictment is not based on evidence, that the indictment is a voluntary one, that the indictment relates to and is copied literally from the Human Rights Watch statement in the Republic of Macedonia, that in this manner that Republic Macedonia is being attacked in this way, that this is not a case in which Ljube Boškoski is facing the Hague Tribunal. I think that at this moment the Republic of Macedonia is standing before the Hague Tribunal, and I cannot understand this procedure in any other way, and therefore I request a quick resolution of this case, being aware that I'm not the only one standing before the Hague Tribunal, but I'm sure that I will defend my honor, my innocence, and the innocence of my country, Republic of Macedonia.
Thank you, Mr. Boškoski. The sentiments you've expressed are noted. I've already mentioned that what can be done to ensure an early trial will be done, but there are many other cases awaiting trial. You will appreciate that the only indictment we have is one that charges you and one other person with these three offences, and your own comments as to the way you see the implications of the indictment are matters which you've been allowed to express and will be heard by those who watch and listen to these proceedings. But the indictment concerns yourself and one other person. That completes then all that needs to be done at this stage of the proceedings. I would thank everybody for their attendance. Adjourn, and I hope the matter can proceed with due expedition.